Yes. It's real. It is real. It has been rumored for ages, but it is actually real. It's a real game now, or at least it seems like it's about to be a real game, and that is Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. It's getting a remaster. I don't know about you, but I have been itching to get back into the Elder Scrolls world for a really long time. The last game in the series originally launched on November 11th, 2011. That's more than 10 years ago. And while Bethesda decided to move in a new direction, instead of fantasy setting and move to a sci-fi setting with Starfield, instead of Elder Scrolls 6, well, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And well, when Starfield launched, Todd Howard said that we wouldn't see Elder Scrolls 6 for a really long time. But you know what? You know what you don't have to wait a really long time for? That's the sponsor of this video, Ivanki. Handheld gaming PCs are awesome. You can take your entire Steam library with you on the go, but you can also play those games on your TV with a dock. Now, there are tons of docks out there, but I just got these docks in from Ivanki. They're the sponsor of this video. This one has up to 14 ports, starting with HDMI 2.1, so it can output up to 4K 120 hertz signal. So if you are playing a game that is not resource hungry, you can really push it. Plus, that's just awesome for working on your desktop. It also has up to 100 watts of power delivery, depending on what system you are using it with. It has USB 3 Gen 2 Type-C port that goes up to 10 gigs per second, 4 USB Type-A ports, one that's 10 gigs, 2 that are 5 gigs, and one that's a USB 2.0 port on the side. It also has gigabit LAN as well as 3.5 millimeter audio jack on the back. And then on the other side, there's SD card readers and micro SD card readers at speeds of up to 104 megs per second. And it has an optional RGB system with up to 7 dynamic lighting modes, or you can turn it off if you don't like RGB. But maybe you don't need all that. That's where their other dock comes in. This dock has HDMI 2.1 port, just like the last one, but this time it has just 3 USB-A ports and gigabit Ethernet. But it can still charge it up to 100 watts, depending on what device you're using it with. So no matter what your needs, these docks have you covered. So check out the link in the description down below, and a big thank you to Ivanki for sponsoring this video. Now back to what I was saying. Here's what Todd Howard actually said.
I mean, there is of course no answer, because
I wish it was soon. You know, we want them out too, you know, and I wish they didn't take as long as they did, but they do. And look, I mean, if I could go back in time, would never have been my plan to wait as long as it's taken for it.
Now, that was 2 years ago, and I'm sure that they've made a lot of progress in those 2 years, but I'm still convinced that Elder Scrolls 6 is a really long way off. But here's the good news. Elder Scrolls 4 Remastered, which is one of my all-time favorites, it just got leaked. Now, Bethesda isn't working on this game. This is actually a remaster, and they hired another company to work on it, and that company seems to be Virtuos. They've worked on a lot of ports, and I don't know if I want to call them necessarily a port house, but it seems like that's what they do. They ported games like Final Fantasy X, Batman Return to Arkham, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West. They've done a lot of ports, those and plenty of others. Now, I know that if I want to play Oblivion again, I could do it. Hell, it was one of the very first games that I installed on my Steam Deck when I got it, but I want a fresh coat of paint on it, and it seems like that's what we're going to get. Over at mpfirst.com, they talked to a former Virtuous employee that worked on the game from 2023 to 2024, and here's what they had to say. Here's what they had to say. English is hard sometimes, isn't it? They said that the game is being remade in Unreal 5. I don't know if I like the term remade, since this is literally a remaster, and you know, the line between remake and remaster is sometimes a little blurry, but this is the words that are on the website. And they're updating the combat systems. They're being changed. It looks like they're taking inspiration from the Souls-like games for blocking and stamina. They're also updating the sneak system to make it a little bit more forgiving for new players to understand what exactly is happening, especially with like stealth icons. The stamina system is also being reworked, and on top of that, they are changing archery in the game to make it more playable in both first and third person modes. So if you want to be a first person or third person dirty, sneaky thief, you absolutely can. On top of that, they are also improving the HUD to make it better for new players, which means we're going to get to explore this world all over again. But not only is it going to feel fresh, it's also going to look fresh. And to me, that is very exciting. I love Oblivion, and every time that I've every time that I've sat down and played that game, I enjoy it. I just wish it looked different. But here's my question for you. With a remaster like this, it seems like they're making a lot of mechanics changes in order to make it more approachable than it was back in the day. Kind of like how Skyrim was. Would you prefer that they keep the same HUD, the same way that stamina works, the same way that blocking and archery works? Or are you excited for these new changes? Basically, do you want to play the same game but have it look better? Or do you want the game to be slightly different? Here's how I look at it. If you want the OG way of doing things, you can always go back and play the original game, which you can pick up on Steam for just $15 right now. And that's like the good version, I think. But if you want to explore Oblivion's story with more modern conveniences, then you want to pick up the remastered version. Now, if you look at the leaked images that are over on Imgur, you can see logos for Steam, for PlayStation, for Xbox, for Game Pass. And I think that that's not a huge surprise, especially because this is now a Microsoft-owned company, but Microsoft bought Bethesda before they bought Activision, and they've made absolutely no bones about it. They have said, look, we're going to put our games on all kinds of other platforms because that's what's best for us and it's best for players. And I have a tendency to agree with Microsoft that it is best for players if we get their games on all platforms. Now, speaking of all platforms, at this point, right now, we don't see any Nintendo logos. But with the Switch 1 featuring Skyrim in its first direct, I'm sure that Bethesda is working with Nintendo to get this game working on Switch 2 as well. And I'm willing to bet that we will see it sooner rather than later on the Switch 2. Maybe it's a case of Virtuos not having access to Switch 2 dev kits, as we saw a lot of rumors that Switch 2 dev kits were hard to come by at this point. So, when is the game coming? Well, according to Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb, it's happening the week of the 21st.
Last week, I think it was last week on this show, Emma.
We were talking about it, yeah.
We were talking about it. Like, oh, yeah, it should shadow drop at any moment. I'll give people a week now. The week of April 21st. So basically the last week of this month. Next week, essentially.
Yes,
so
next week.
that it should shadow drop then, which I think other people have said, but I've gotten separate confirmation that that's going to be the case.
Now, like I said earlier, I am a huge fan of Oblivion, but it is a huge game. And if you guys have been watching my stuff for any length of time, I do not have a very good attention span. I get distracted by new shiny things very quickly, which means I've never actually finished Oblivion, even though I love that game. I've started it at least 20 times, I think, and each time I've started it, I've probably played it for about 10 hours, so I know the beginning of that game really well. But then I always get distracted by some other game, only to return to the game, and then I'm like, well, I think I should probably just make a new character and start over, and I go through that amazing opening starring Sir Patrick Stewart. Oh, and speaking of the voice cast, for those of you who never played Oblivion, or maybe you did and you just don't know, in addition to Patrick Stewart being in the game, it also has Sean Bean, Terrence Stamp, Linda Carter, and a bunch more. I'm kind of two minds when it comes to the voice cast. I don't want them to recast like the big characters, but I do hope that they add in more variety to the voice lines. So I hope that they just update the graphics, add in some additional voice lines, but don't get rid of any of the originals, because I think the originals are really cool. So don't replace those, please. Now, the people over at the Oblivion subreddit noticed that in this image here, you can see that what might be the Wizard's Tower, and they assumed that that means that the DLC comes with the game. But then there's other images that were shown over at Imgur. They show a deluxe edition of the game, which means you'll probably be going to be buying the base game and the DLC separately, or you'll be getting the deluxe edition. I think that the base game not coming with the original DLC is pretty lame, but at the same time, there's so much content in the original game that I never got to the DLC anyway. But I'm willing to bet that we'll see cosmetics for sale. Do you remember horse armor? Everyone joking about horse armor all the time. Do you remember that back in the day? Yeah, this is the game. This is the game that had the horse armor. And so I'm pretty sure we're going to see a bunch of cosmetics in this game. I'm also very curious about the price of this game. It's a massive game. It really is. And even though I already played it, this is a new version of the game. And there's a lot of people who've never played the original, and this game is going to be new to them. So how much do you think it should cost? Should it cost full game price? What even is full game price these days? I mean, with what's happening in the world lately, game prices are going up. I'm leaning towards, if you had asked me a few months ago, I would have said I'm leaning towards $50 for the standard edition and $60 for the deluxe edition. But I wonder if recent events are going to push those prices up. And by recent events, I'm talking about Nintendo releasing Mario Kart World for $80. So what do you think the prices are going to be? Anyway, let me know in the comment section down below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.